Hello, hello, awesome humans. Okay, I have a very, very special episode for you. If you're watching on YouTube, you can already see I'm not alone in the studio. I have Mia here. Mia needs no introduction. But for those of you who haven't heard me talk about my daughter Mia in my emails and podcasts and on stage, this is my daughter Mia. And we have a really special episode for you. And what we're going to talk about is something that I encounter with so many people that I work with, that I coach, where when you're doing something new, you start doing it. And often, like the first way you're doing it is not quite working, or you get frustrated. And there's always this feeling of like, oh, okay, this thing, it's not going to work out. Well, that's never the case. And Mia is like the perfect person to talk about this because this summer, Mia has been studying for her MCAT. If you're not aware, if you're not from the United States, or maybe you don't know, it's a test you need to take to get accepted into medical school. It is brutal. I'm going to ask Mia to share more about it just so you have the context. And basically, this is what Mia's been doing all summer. And she has had this experience where it is something brand new. It's very difficult. She's had to try different things. And as we've been talking about it, I'm like, okay, you have to share this on the podcast. So that's what we're going to talk about. So if you are, well, first of all, if you're a parent of a teenager or college student, you definitely want to hear this episode and share it with them. But more broadly, what this is, I think, something useful for all of us, because whenever we do something new, something challenging, we are going to run into obstacles. And part of becoming reinventable is figuring out how to work through them. And Mia's going to talk to us about that. Hi, Mia.
Hi, Natalie. Hi, everyone. The MCAT,
Yes.
Basically, I'll lay the ground
because
rules.
not everybody knows. I didn't know.
The MCAT is a 7.5-hour exam. Yes, you have heard that correctly. 7.5 hours, with 4 different sections: chemistry, reading, biochemistry, and like biology, and then psychology. So you sit and you take this all in one go with a couple breaks, but it is unfortunately brutal. I do have to say that. And it requires an immense amount of studying. Not just science, but you heard I said the reading. You have to understand how to read these passages. It's all multiple choice, which I guess takes a little bit of the pressure off, but not really. And so I've been studying all summer. I'm taking it at the beginning, actually 1 month exactly from today.
September 5th, everyone. Awesome humans. September 5th. I need all the good vibes. Everyone be sending good vibes to me. Okay. So let's get into it. So it's a really hard test and it really matters, right? It is is really important. It's not the only thing that's important, but it's important. Okay, so let's talk about it. You started studying and you do well in college, like you had some prep, but you started studying and there were a couple sections that started to immediately be a challenge for you. And can you talk about what those are and what you were feeling as you were bumping against the wall?
So it's actually been a process of like what was difficult early on, what's difficult now. When I first started, the hardest thing was physics because I didn't take physics, or I haven't taken physics yet in undergrad. And so I basically had to self-teach it to myself. I mean, I'm in a course, but I'm kind of teaching it to myself essentially. Later on, once I kind of nailed that, which we can talk about, later on, it started to get really difficult in the reading section because the people who design this exam don't want to make it easy for you. And so this reading section is quite convoluted. It's difficult. They give you a lot of philosophical stuff that you have to analyze. It's not easy. And that got really hard, especially because it's not content based. So all the other science sections, it's like, oh, maybe, I'm missing this term, I'm missing this concept, whatever. It's something I learned or I forgot. But this is pure logic and strategy. And that has definitely been one of the biggest hurdles in this studying because I couldn't find a concrete way to get better.
Okay, so I want to ask you about that because this is the thing, and this is why this is useful for everyone listening who is not taking the MCAT. You were doing the things, you were practicing the question, you have a tutor, and it wasn't working. Like, can you talk about how you were feeling? Because it's a really
feeling bad, feeling frustrated, feeling like, because people, so the section is called cars. So that's what I'll call it. People all over the internet have all these cars tips. Oh, do this, read it this way, highlight this part, do this thing. My lovely tutor had tons of suggestions. There's all these strategies that I was reading and I kept trying different things and it's just not working. It's not that I'm getting worse, but I'm not getting better.
So I want you to pause on that. And what I want, like you, everyone who's listening or watching, like I want you to think about things you have tried to do in your life that were challenging, right? Not simple things. And how often this was the first experience, right? So you start doing it, you try different things, it's not working. And then we have a choice. And this is like where, this is the reinventable mindset spiel that Mia has unfortunately or fortunately now heard like 1,000 times. We have a choice, right? We can say, okay, this isn't working. Like, this isn't for me. Like, you could have been like, this is the most I can get in cars. Like,
1,000%. And sometimes that does happen, right? Some people, it just doesn't click. And, I don't know. But for some people, they're like, I've just accepted I'm never going to get a score above this on this section.
So that's a choice, right? Or like, we have a choice to say, okay, I give up on this thing, right? Like whatever this new thing. The other choice is to say, okay, like it hasn't worked so far. It's really hard, but I'm going to keep trying new things. And this is the important thing. I told Mia this quote. I'm sure many of you have heard it. Einstein had this famous quote of the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome. And this is something, Mia, that I love that you are willing to do so talk about what you did, like went on Reddit and.
So I have been a Reddit queen lately because it's actually a great resource for understanding how other people have done stuff. And I was pulling lots of tips from there for this logic stuff. And I think actually came to you at one point and I was just like, this is so annoying. Like my accuracy is not going up. It's like, okay, something different. And I didn't want to accept that because I knew I could do better. I was like, there is no way that this is the score that is like my maximum. I don't feel like I've maxed out my potential here. And I found this one person on Reddit who got a really high score in the section and was like, try this. And it was like, just doing something basically completely different from what I had been. And all of a sudden I did a practice set of a couple of passages and I got a 96% accuracy. Literally had never even come close to that before.
But before you talk about the big win, because then you had another big win, I just want you to be really honest. It's not like you read the suggestion and you were like, okay, I'm going to do it. You read the suggestion and you were like
apprehensive. I was like, I guess I'll try it. Right. I was like, oh, I'll try it on my practice and like see what happens. I was apprehensive. I was like, I don't know. Like, this is what people say not to do. And you're nervous. You're like, what if it doesn't work? What if I go and do this and I get none of the questions right? And all of a sudden it's like, I'm back at square zero, or square one. And I was nervous. And then even after I did really well in the practice, I was taking a full exam practice. I actually took it yesterday. For that, I was like, oh, but I did well in the practice, but maybe that was a fluke. Maybe I should just do what I did before. I was so nervous. I don't want to do this new thing. And part of it is like, you're afraid. What if the new thing also fails?
Correct. This is also, and like, again, Mia's heard me talk about, I've given Mia so many TED Talks this summer on the reinventable mindset. I mean, it's a joke, by the way, we all have that, parents turn things into teachable moments. I turn things into a TED Talk.
Well, I often I'm asking what her rates are because we'll be standing, all of a sudden I have a talk, for 10 minutes. I owe her.
Yeah. I mean, I'm like, if I charge you my regular mentorship rate. Yeah. I mean, it's adding up. It's really adding up. But this is a really important part because I work through this with so many people that I mentor where there's this new thing and they're afraid to do it because and that's what I said to me. Like, of course you're afraid because the brain hates uncertainty, right? It hates it. Uncertainty means possible danger. Maybe this is going to be worse. That's what it focuses on. And so you have a ton of apprehension. And again, then we have a choice. So we have a choice to like, let that fear talk us into, you know what, I'll just stick with the score that I had. I don't want to risk it. I'll just stick with, the job that I have that I don't love. I'll just stick with doing this thing that I don't love because the new thing is too risky. Or you can say to yourself, what is the worst thing that can happen if I try this new thing? Like, this is what I tell my clients. And actually, like, think about it. Like, I'm not being facetious. What's the worst case scenario? Worst case scenario, you try this new technique on a practice test, your score goes down. You're like, okay, not going to do this thing, right? What's the worst thing that can happen? I was talking to a woman today who wants to write a book, right? She's been writing a lot. She writes a lot as part of her job. And she said to me, but like, I'm afraid to like even get started because what if like I can't pull it off? Well, I said, okay, what's the worst case scenario? You start writing, you write, and then at some point, okay, you're like, I'm not going to finish the book. What's the worst case scenario? She said, I'm going to feel really disappointed at myself. I said, okay, like at that point, if you're disappointed at yourself, maybe that will motivate you to keep going. Maybe you'll be like, okay, I'm not meant to write a book. But thinking through the worst case scenario is actually very helpful because, have you heard this TED Talk? What it does is it actually gives your brain certainty. So thinking
because you
through.
can imagine, okay, well, if I do this thing, maybe this is what's going to happen. It's like, all right, well, I know what's coming, even if it's bad. I know what's coming. All right, let's just get there, and then it probably won't.
It probably won't. But this is actually, so this is the practice that I want to share with all of you, because I share a practice in every episode. Super important to me that there's always an action you can take when you want to do something and it's new and challenging and you are afraid. Literally write out the worst case scenario. Like, don't BS about it. Just write it out. Here's the worst case scenario. And then talk to yourself, like, what is the probability, like Mia, but what's the probability that this worst case scenario happens? Let's say it happens. How can I work through it? How can I support myself through it? What you're doing is your brain is going like, okay, yeah, that sucks, but like, I know what it is, and it lets off the fear. Okay, teachable moment over, because now the da-da-da, drum roll, the big reveal. Mia took the full practice, the full 7.5 hours yesterday, and used the new technique on that section.
And it increased my score by 3 points,
which
is a lot in the MCAT world.
It's huge.
Put that context, 3 points is a lot, especially because I literally had the same exact score for like 4 exams. So yay! That was awesome.
I was in my studio and Mia texted me and Avi, my husband, her score, and I screamed so loud. I swear to God, I freaked out my neighbor. Actually, I should go and say sorry, because I was like, and then I was like, okay, sorry. And like, that's the thing, right? So like, imagine if you gave into the nervousness and the fear and you didn't try this new thing. You would never know if it's even possible. Like, that's the worst thing. Okay, so now I have to be a total mother and ask you, so there's other sections you're also looking to improve. Obviously, that's the whole point. Has like this experience changed anything? I don't mean tactically in your approach, but just how you think about like studying, trying new things.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think it's just kind of like you've defined what works for you, and it's hard. I mean, I'll put it in the context of studying, but I'm sure it applies to a million other things. It's really difficult because there is this sort of status quo of what works. And it's like, oh, you read these books and do this thing and use this flashcard deck and blah, 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 and then like you will get a good score. And I very quickly sort of was feeling, I was like, but that doesn't make sense. Like, not everything is going to work for everyone. And so I think it's just, this has really proven to me that, yeah, sure, this worked for other people, but it is not the main thing that I've seen suggested for this type of stuff. And so I just think it's so important to remember what works for everyone isn't going to work for you. There isn't actually this like norm for how to try new things and what to try. Mm-hmm. And it's probably gonna, if you feel like what you're doing isn't working, the worst thing that can happen is you change it and that also doesn't work. It's the same thing, but now you're saying, okay, well, now there's another thing. Let's go to the next. Instead of staying in the same place and it's just still not working. And it's like, okay. And then I also will say, and maybe this is helpful to like identify with, then you feel kind of crappy because like, well, maybe I should be trying something new. How do I know? I actually sat there. I was like, no, I shouldn't be afraid, because how do I know that I'm not like ignore, I don't have like horse blinders on what's actually going to work. And now I'm just sitting here feeling crappy.
So I think there are two really great points. And the last one you made about like, it's actually riskier to sit still and stand still and not try something new, because so there's been a lot of studies done and books written about what people regret at the end of their life. And one of the top regrets is not doing enough things that I wanted to try. It's not doing too many things that didn't work out. No one has that regret.
Right.
We regret the chances not taken. And so like, I think it's such a great point. Like, yes, it's working for you, but even if you tried it and you didn't, it's better than not trying it and staying stuck. But the other thing you were saying, I think is also really important in every context is don't assume that there's some holy grail way to do the thing you want to do, right? It's like this woman I was talking about who I'm working with who wants to write a book. There's a million different ways to write a book. Or, one of my clients had this dream to have a candy store, but couldn't quit her job. We're now doing it. She's doing it in a completely different way, right? People that I work with, someone wanted to do meditation workshops. Well, you don't have to quit your job. You don't have to join a yoga studio. Like, there's many different ways to do it in a way that works for you. And so it's just really great inner practice to be like, there isn't a holy grail and I have to find it. It's more, I have to figure out, like, I have to find the stepping stones that make it work for me.
And I, like, 1,000% have just taken bits and pieces, and it's like what works. It's not what people say works.
That's going to be a great quote for this episode. We'll call that out on social media. Thank you, Mia. I literally just came home. I was like, because she's had this experience, and I was like, can we talk about this on the podcast? So thank you, Mia. Any parting? Actually, so we have this funny family tradition where we do like Yelp reviews, but on like non-restaurant experiences. So Mia, can you do a review of the MCAT studying process so far?
No. I'm going to give it 2 stars for being incredibly time consuming and stressful, but it is really teaching me how to like just grind and showing myself that I can do that. And also it's nice when my score goes up and I see that all that like pushing and pushing is actually like turning into something fruitful.
Fantastic. So 2 out of 5. Yeah, so do not recommend, or
would
slightly
not do again.
Would not do again. Okay, there's your Yelp review. Thank you, Mia. I love you so much.
I love you so much.
Thank you, awesome humans, as always, for sharing a little bit of your heart and time and mind with me. That's all I have today. We have today. As I like to say, I will be in your ear and on your screen next week. Have an awesome rest of your week. Bye.